Oh boy. All right. I think I will break this up because this is really long now. So, uh, I if you're already seeing this on YouTube, you probably already tell I've broken this up into 2 parts. If you haven't watched the first part, which was Seed, check that out. I kind of go over why I didn't like Seed Destiny or anything like that. I'm not gonna recap that unless I'm got some story time in here. But I do want to talk about Gundam Seed Destiny. Oh boy. So let me go ahead and start off with the story here, and just in case too, before I do that, let's just get this out of the way too. If you haven't already, if you're watching this on Twitch, make sure to follow me on my Twitch. If you're watching this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment down below. I want to hear from you guys. What did you think about Seed Destiny? Did you like my opinion about it? Did you not like my opinion about it? Do you hate or love this series? What do you think about Shin? Huh? Oh, sorry if I fixed that up. What do you think about Shin? Yeah, leave a comment down below. Other than that, let's go ahead and begin. Sorry, I'm a little bit fatigued. I've been going almost 2 hours at this point. Well, 2 hours now, so going strong. Anyways, story for Seed Destiny. In the year Cosmic Era 73, 2 years after the events of Gundam Seed, an attack on Earth from a rogue group of coordinators sparks new tensions and a war renewed. That's the gist of it. Notice I don't really talk about characters, and I will talk about that in a little bit, but the story does kind of change a little bit from here. It's an evolving beast, but not a pleasant one. So for those who do not know, this is the sequel series to Gundam Seed, and it was originally aired in Japan back on October 9th of 2004. Like the original Seed, Destiny borrows a lot of story elements that can be seen from the original Gundam, or in this case, or betterly known, the sequel, Zeta Gundam. I'm going to dive a little bit into that one too. It's going to be quite a bit to unpackage from this series here. I don't really have a lot more trivia beyond that one. So let me go ahead and just talk about the animation here real quick. There's not a whole lot for me to talk about, and I'm going to skip because I don't want to look at Shin's stupid face any longer. I will talk to you about it in a little bit. But I'm going to leave it on this really cool wallpaper that I used to use back in the day while I was watching Destiny, and I had removed it afterwards because I hated Destiny so much back in the day. But the animation between the 2 series, between Seed and Seed Destiny, is not by a whole lot. I do want to let you know I am not reviewing the HD versions for it, just to clarify, because, and I didn't clarify this in my Seed review, the Seed HD and the Seed Destiny HD are locked behind collector's editions, which are $225 right now. I'm not paying for that right now, and I was trying to get through what I can have, which was for my own collection, which is based on DVDs. So they're all SD. However, back to my point, Seed originally ended in 2004, and Seed Destiny started in 2004. So you're going to see what I'm saying? Like, there's not much of a whole animation difference between the two. It's a little bit better with Seed Destiny, especially with the CGI ships of the Minerva. It's a little bit better than the Archangel. Not by a whole lot, though. The music for Seed Destiny is alright. Unfortunately, unlike Seed, where Seed had a lot of really cool music, I really loved a lot of the music in Seed. It's like one of my top tier favorite Gundam musics of all time, right with Wing. Destiny is a letdown. Destiny doesn't have a whole lot of music that's great. While it does have a lot of opening and ending songs, a lot of them are not that great. Like, the first 2 are probably, like, the first couple were good, and then the rest not so great. The music used throughout the series internally, though, between like dialogue and action scenes and the story, it's okay. It doesn't really captivate or really capture the moment, in my opinion. It's forgettable for the most part. As for dubbing, I think the dubbing is alright for the most part. I think they did a good job comparatively to where Seed, where even though Seed uses a lot of familiar voice actors, we get a lot of still familiar voice actors for Seed Destiny. But I mean, there's not much of a complaint. I think it's just because we don't have Kira or the others as much as the main characters as much. I say as much. If you've seen my Seed review, you'll know that I wasn't a huge fan of Kira's voice, Kagali's voice, Flay's voice, or Lacus's voice. So I was a huge fan of their voices. Not necessarily that the voice actors and actresses are not good. I just didn't care about the way they portray the character. They just didn't fit the character that well. But they can act well. So they weren't perfect for that character. But I think the casting for this time around for Destiny was actually good. For the new cast members that we get introduced to, I had no issues with it. I feel like everybody fit their role perfectly. If anything else, I really do like Durandal's voice, because, I mean, it's Wu-Fei Chang's voice, but in a lot more calmer tone. I liked it a lot. And Luminaria wasn't bad either. Talia is also a good voice actress, too. I like her voice actress. Other than that, let's just dive into the nitty-gritty with Destiny. It's not great. Not great. So story and the pacing is big problems here. Destiny rehashes a lot of these elements from Seed, so we're retreading those grounds and like trying to start up a war. Yes, this Destiny does bring in some newer aspects to this story, and I'll touch on those later. But for the most part, Seed really Seed Destiny rehashes those moments from Seed. So it's like we get to the war. Okay, then kind of spoiler moments, but like not really, but we are like rehashing the war. We're going back to fight Orb and all that stuff like that. And then we're going back up to the plants and fight and like it follows the same like little plot point where like this is what we just watched in Seed. Why are we rewatching this again? And it feels very much like lazy writing to me. Also, I would almost say the same thing with mech designs, but I do like some of the redesigns. I will go over that when I get to the mech section. But in all honesty, when it comes to the story of Seed Destiny, it really, really rehashes things. And for those of you who don't want to hear this part, I'm going to actually delve a little bit more into it. I kind of gave anybody who didn't want spoilers an idea about it. So if you don't want to hear this next part here, I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about what I'm talking about rehashing stuff. Kind of give you a little bit of an idea though. Okay. So like what I'm talking about here is rehashing plot points. So we already had this whole entire thing that they're using Julius 7 to spark another war. Yeah, I get it. They're doing the whole Logos thing, and they're trying to blame Logos later on and all that jazz, or Logos is causing this. Not Logos specifically, but like Logos is using this event to stir up another war. So we're rehashing and rekindling the hatred. And like I said from the first Seed, I really like that kind of like storyline. I want them to develop more on it, but they don't. They bring it up and they drop that point over just so they can renew the war and they start more conflict, start more fighting. Okay, then later on we get to Orb not once, but twice in the series. And we have these kind of conflicts very similar to what we had in Orb to begin with. It's kind of like a 1-2 part from what Seed had, because Orb was basically, no, we're not going to be doing stuff with the Alliance or whatnot, and then the Alliance is pressuring them into, hey, well, you guys are not playing ball with us, so we're just going to crush you. Something similar with Durandal wanting to destroy Orb, but that's because he feels Orb is a threat to his attempt for a power grab. So not only does it once, but we go at it a second time. And I just find that it's like, why are we trying to go back to Orb? Why are we not visiting other things or creating a different storyline? Additionally, with that too, we go into space. And when we fight against the planets or whatnot, we get introduced to the whole Destiny plan. You know what, let me I'm going to talk about all the spoiler stuff here I can, so I don't have to spoil it for anybody else. So when I talk about like also back and forth, I'll mention this about rehashing characters. I really hate how we are rehashing during this point time frame. We're rehashing why Kira and Athrun are fighting. Oh, should they not fight each other or not? Like, we already explored this last show. Why are we exploring it again? Why is Athrun so confused when he figured it out by the end of Seed? Kira is a cardboard box, okay, for the most part. He's a cardboard box of himself from the first series, and he is who he is. But Catherine particularly is just confused constantly. And I'm like, how are you confused? Shin, I can understand, but you should not be confused anymore. And then we get to what else did I have here? Like kind of that rehash that kind of frustrates me too. We are rehashing stuff from like Zeta Gundam. We have basically Shin is like Camille and Stella is like 4, but done in a very piss poor manner in my opinion. The romance that Shin has, or like this feelings that Shin has for Stella, doesn't make any sense. Why he goes to the extreme lengths for Stella makes no sense. And why he goes goes crazy after the fact that Kira kills her doesn't make any sense. At least for Camille in Zeta Gundam, it made sense everything as it went through because we saw a progression, an actual growing progression between 4 and Camille. It's not just like, oh, they met up with each other and now they're in love. Although it does come off that way originally. Comparatively, between Camille and 4 and Shin and 4, it's night and day difference. We had more time with Camille and 4 to develop. Stella and Camille kind of like met, and then Shin just got a raging one for her and never stopped. And he doesn't want to admit it. In addition to him being an arrogant prick. So that was something that got to rehash. We get a little bit of a rehash between kind of like the Forever 4 arc. And that kind of irritated me itself. Then outside of all that, we come to the very ending. And the very ending is not a joke, a rehash. A rehash of the last episode or last few episodes of Seed. Not only does Durando try to enact upon his destiny plan, which there is no explanation of what the destiny plan is or how or why it's bad, other than if you look it up and try to find out what the plan actually is and what it was intended to be done for it. But we also get like the Neogenesis, which is basically his own little Death Star, Death Meteorite to destroy stuff. And then he's quickly defeated, and just like the original Seed, it ends off without any explanation of the events that occurred before, after, and not knowing what happens to our characters. It is literally a cut and paste of that almost. Not necessarily scene by scene, but the events that unfold, the way that it's told. It's a rehash. That's a waste of our time watching it. Why? Why did they do that? So it drove me nuts. It really drove me nuts while watching Destiny. And it's a crying shame because Destiny starts off like it had its own feet, right? And then it goes like, oh, no, I can't walk or run on my own. Let me go ahead and chop off Seed's legs and I'll borrow a little bit of Zeta just so I can run to the finish line. And that's what it did. I'm gonna save the other parts for I do want to say a regression too with our characters. I was gonna talk about regression in a little bit, so for not spoiling for our other folks who don't want spoilers, right? But the regression of our characters. In alongside with rehashing the storyline, we got a lot of regression of our characters. I already talked about Athern, but Cogli is another example too. She came up to be a more stronger character by the end of Seed, and now she becomes a weakened character because of Yuna's advances towards her and taking over Orb. What? And then she rediscovers and reinforces herself through the entire series? What's going on with that? Neo is another one too, where we come off like he's this other different character. I mean, it was pretty obvious through the opening sequences that we knew that he was Mu. Or at least maybe another clone. Who knew? But by the end, we know that he's actually Mu. And his regression of the character, it seemed too fast and not really fully developed. We know he's going to turn back to the Mu, but we don't get anything truly that changes him to be Mu. The closest thing we're going to get to is that the things that he saw that happened to Stella made him think, and then he transitioned over to Mu somehow. Not so much so as this, like, a amnesiac person recovering their memories, right? It's like, oh, I have amnesia. Okay, now I remember everything. No, it's like, I have amnesia. I remember this. Oh, wait, there's this moment too. And then, like other events that slowly do that. With Mu, and again, flashback Fukuda, we have a lot more flashbacks that come back with Mu to explain things, and I didn't like that. I would rather had more scenes with him and Muru to remind him of things, maybe going back to Orb, or like maybe seeing the Strike Rouge and stuff like elements like that. We could have developed Neo or Mu fully, but we don't get that. We get a regression of his character as Neo, and then somehow forming into Mu. Another character that kind of irked me was Yuna. Now, Yuna is a POS, but at least with Yuna, though, he came off as this formidable, like an earthier version, a more manipulative version of Durandal, right? But the problem with Yuna, though, is that midway through the series, though, he transforms from this little fingers kind of a person, like this manipulative person that has everyone with his little fingertips, to somebody as a sniveling little coward that can't do anything on his own. At least Jabril, even though Jabril was a sniveling coward himself, he was consistent as who he was. And he didn't digress as a character or anything like that. He started as who he was, kind of changed a little bit, and then he ended off where he was. Yuna started off strong and ended off weak, and it made no sense whatsoever. I think the only argument people can have for Yuna's character regression would be like, oh, well, you know, he was losing control and all his pieces were falling apart or what. I'm like, yeah, but he still would have some level of resolve as a character, you know, some level or some semblance of like a point that he can reach. Instead, from a strong character, he went to a sniveling coward, which was a mirror opposite of what he is. So I just found it kind of weird. I would agree to a sniveling character being even more snivelier. I can understand a higher end character, like Durandal at the end, right? Even though he was beat, he didn't lower himself to a sniveling coward. That's where Yuna was at. Yuna was there, but he lowered himself too low. He didn't lower himself like just a step down. Like Durandal. Durandal took like a little bit of a step down. That's it. That makes sense within a character perspective. So that was something I had to say about those characters and their regression. Let me go ahead. For all you folks who do not want spoilers, you can go ahead and you are now safe to listen to what I had to say. I actually talked a little bit more about spoilers that I wanted to talk about, but it's just so I can talk a little bit more things that I wanted to talk about or go through. So I already talked about rehashing story elements in from Seed to Seed Destiny. And I kind of talked a little bit about the characters. More particular, like I mentioned with Athrun, or I mentioned about Athrun a little bit, but more so with Athrun, he does regress. And when I talk about character regression, it's revisiting or lowering themselves to a point where they had originally been at, but they've already transferred or progressed through that point. Why are we revisiting that, right? So elements like Athrun had from the first series, he's already accomplished and he's past that. But the way that the story does, it's like the story was already written from like we have the beginning, we have the end, we have everything that we want in the story. Now we got to put our characters there. Oh wait, this character can't do this. Like Athrun can't do this here because he's already done that here. All right, let's regress him to get to that point, and then we're gonna get him closer here, and then we're gonna turn him back to where he was. That's what they were doing. They do this with several other characters. That's very frustrating and very aggravating because it goes right back to my lazy writing portion. And then it also goes to disrespecting you as the viewer. Like you grew with these characters. Either you grew with them from the last series, which is Seed, and you already grew with them and you developed them as a character, or you get some brand new characters in this series, and even though you grew with them, whether you like them or not, you grew with them. You got an idea of who they are as a character, and then they regress them. Why are they doing that? They're just trying to simplify an event, so simplify these characters so that way they can get through a plot point and then get to the next spot. That's not good writing at all. That's terrible writing. So I just thought that was just really, really, really awful what Destiny did to not only the story, but to its characters. But if I'm going to talk about a character, if I'm going to talk about any character, it's Shin. Shin Asuka. Shin Asuka is our main character of Sea Destiny. I'm going to tell you right now, I hated Shin over a decade ago, and my hatred for Shin not only stayed consistent, but it renewed. I hate Shin Asuka with a burning passion. He is like right up there with my top tier characters I hate in the Gundam franchise. He was there originally. I'm like, I remember I hated Shin Asuka. He's like right up there with Quest and Kotz and a few other characters. But you know what? I remember him. I hate him, but I don't remember as much as why I hate him. After watching Destiny, I can tell you why I really hate Shin Asuka. So let me break it down for you here. So Shin Asuka is our main character or protagonist for Sea Destiny. He often he's like if I'm not missing, he's like a 15, 16-year-old or so. He's formerly now this is all the beginning, right? He formerly is from the nation of Orb, and he went to serve and go to the Zaft army after the events that transpired in Seed, where, again, this is not spoilers, this happens in the very first 5 minutes of the first episode. His entire family is wiped out due to, I think it's the Calamity Gundam's beam, but some kind of explosive attack or beam attack took out his entire family. Let me give you a little more context here too. So his entire anger is about his family, more particular about his sister, because he always holds on to his sister's little cell phone because it has her little voice recording of her voice. And that's the only thing he has left of her. I get it. I understand. You lost a loved one. It's totally understandable. You could feel that sympathy and empathize with that character and all that good stuff. But what makes it a problem, though, is that all those events makes him a little bit more of a arrogant brat. He comes off as a braggart. He always talks so high and mighty of himself when he doesn't fill the role, or he can't compete, or he really truly can't do anything. I'm not even gonna say that he's like Vegeta-esque level, because at least Vegeta, his boasting has multiple dimensions behind it, between his own personal struggle to actually being used as a weapon, such as like fooling the androids and stuff like that. But Shin's boasting does nothing other than just to self-stroke his ego. I mean, you can argue that with Vegeta, but self-stroking his ego and doesn't serve any other purpose that really benefits anybody else or anything else. He doesn't develop furthermore from that point. I should say that's a spoiler, but you know what? That's not really a spoiler, because he is a cardboard box of garbage. Hot garbage. Flaming hot garbage. Let me put it this way too. I told you about his family being killed, right? What if I told you this? His entire family died and he lived because his sister is a brat. Yes, when they were escaping Orb and trying to get to the port, his sister drops her cell phone and Shin goes off to get his sister's cell phone because she's being a brat. I don't want to go. I don't want to lose my cell phone. I want to get my cell phone. That's basically it. Shin goes off to get her cell phone, and her family gets wiped off the face of the earth. If it wasn't for his sister being a brat, they all probably would have been alive. Because, like, the amount of time it took for them to get down there, too, they could have gone a little bit further more, because it didn't look like the blast would have hit that point either. And they would have all lived. No. That bratty attitude also is exhibited through Shin. I can do this. Oh, I can do that. Oh, yeah. You think you can do better than me? Oh, you think because you're a commander, or you're a faith, because Atherin's a faith. You think you're a faith member? You're better than me? That's basically what it is. It's aggravating and it's annoying. And he gets all emo depressed about his family and his sister, and he tries to use his sister as a motivation, but his sister was an absolute brat. I get it, your family is dead and you're grieving, but if you can't realize how much of a garbage your sister was, and if you can't realize how much of a garbage person you are as a person, chances are you're not going to be growing from that point. I digress a little bit, and I want to just show you this face of Shin right here, because that's the face that we all would, if you watch the series, you're going to be more familiar with Shin as an annoying character like this. He's argumentative, a brat, arrogant, a braggart, and looks down on everybody. And when he gets the proverbial poo shoveled into his face, he doesn't take it with humility. Oh no. He just tries to ante the up and doubles down on his brattery and arrogance. That's a face that you want to punch. That's a face you really want to punch. In fact, ugh, so glad he does get his face punched in. I'm not going to say who or where or when, but I'm so glad his face doesn't get punched in. That was the most satisfying scene in the entire series for me, period. If you ask me anything else, the only thing I enjoyed from watching Gundam Seed Destiny is to see his stupid, smug, arrogant, bratty face punched in. I swear to God, that's how much I hate Shin. And I'm so glad to see that punch. And I wished there was more, but I got that one punch. Not quite good enough, but it was good enough at that moment. Spoilers, not spoilers. I don't care. He gets punched in the face. Who I'm not going to tell you, though. When, I'm not going to tell you. But he gets punched in the face. But yeah, I mean, that's a problem I have with Shin. So, the main characteristics aside from him, though, right? So you get a lot of characters like Shin in other series. Usually they're side characters, like Vegeta from Dragon Ball, the Dragon Ball franchise, or Hiei and Kurobara from Yu Yu Hakusho. There's a bunch of other fighting or shonen-based anime that features characters of this nature. They're arrogant, they're brash, they're they just come off like jerks a lot of the times, right? But they develop as characters throughout the series. Most of the time, they develop as characters. And you end up liking them at times, too. Shin doesn't go through any phase of that nature. He remains consistent throughout the entire series, albeit he gets crazier. And his justifications do not make sense, and they're very frustrating, very aggravating. In fact, I'm going to argue here, too, that because of all these factors, Shin is easily the worst Gundam protagonist ever. You know how bad he is? He's so bad that the writers couldn't do anything else with him, and they couldn't even write anything redeeming about Shin. That more than halfway through the series, when Kira finally reappears, Kira becomes the center stage. A cardboard box becomes a center stage to a flaming cardboard box. Right. I get frustrated about this so bad because there's too many moments in this series you want to just punch his smug face, his stupid, arrogant, smug face. You want to punch it in. Like that. You don't get enough of that. But once he kind of gets replaced, he becomes a side character almost. And it's kind of weird because consistently through every Gundam series, and that's where I'm like, when I told you guys the story or a synopsis of this series, I usually start off with like the main characters, right? I didn't even start off with the main character because this series didn't even know who they wanted to focus on. At first, we had Athrun and Shin. And while Shin was this haughty, arrogant person, you had Athrun. And it was kind of like a mentor and a mentee. Almost like Obi-Wan and Anakin. Wait a second here. Obi and Anakin. And then there are moments with the politics being very heavy-handed by a particular individual. And it almost seems like Palpatine. My god, is there another lazy writing a hand here? Is this a copy, not only of Seed and Zeta, but something outside of the franchise and Star Wars? I might not have mentioned it here in this review, but I did mention it at least in the Seed one. Both Seed and Seed Destiny are directed by, and I forgot his first name, but his last name is Fukuda. He is also known as Flashback Mall Fukuda because he uses flashbacks a lot. I'll talk about that later on in this review for Seed Destiny in particular. Another fun fact about Fukuda is that he's a huge Star Wars fan. It became evident to me with at least Seed because I talked about how the strike daggers have sound effects of what sounds to be like X-Wing or blaster rifle sound effects from Star Wars. We hear the sound effects again in Seed Destiny. Then we had this story arcing between Athrun and Shin, almost like Obi-Wan teaching Anakin, like Clone Wars. And then I'm rounding it off with a political character that comes off very heavy-handed with the politics, but disguising themselves. And it's like they're Palpatine. Yep, so in addition to shimming a terrible character, Gundam Seed Destiny rips off of Star Wars. Particularly the prequels. Yeah. I'm going to do a little bit of spoilers here because I don't want to... Oopsies. I don't want to do too much for you guys in that regard, so you don't want spoilers. I want you guys to turn away from it. So here's your chance. I see a little ant walking around my desk here. All right, so I want to dive a little bit more with that Star Wars talk I was telling you guys about. So as I was telling you about Shin being like Anakin, I was hinting at a character being like Palpatine. Well, in fact, the character I'm hinting at Palpatine, if you watched the series before, since you're watching the spoilers, or you don't care in general, the character I am referring to is Durandal. Durandal's masterminding a lot and manipulating a lot of the scenes with his little puppet strings, like Palpatine did in the Clone War, the prequel movies. Now, I'm going to try and show you guys something kind of funny here, because two particular things, I talked about the spoilers already, but I mentioned about, Neogenesis and stuff like that. And first and foremost, I want to show you guys a screenshot from this series. I could not take a screenshot of this because when I start seeing the parallels, this is something I didn't read up online or whatnot. I just picked up these parallels myself. And my God, you tell me, does that not look like Emperor Palpatine sitting in the throne room? Let me try and see if I can get this to focus. Oh, there you go. Let me do a favor here, folks. Let me enlarge that. I apologize. Does that not look like Emperor Palpatine sitting in the throne room? Here's another thing I want to show you. Some of you might have seen it in the series or whatnot, but here's a screenshot too. This is Neogenesis. This is actually the Redemption, I think is what it's called. And the Neogenesis Cannon, which is that gigantic circle right there. And it's used to fire at the rebels. Or in this case, anybody that's fighting. I couldn't even tell at this point if it was Alliance because the Alliance kind of like just disappeared after Jabril was dead. Oh, people didn't realize I didn't have a little signature for spoilers, so hopefully no one got confused about that. But I think it's just kind of funny that, again, with the lazy writing, and in particular with Shin himself, he was written to be like Anakin, but at least Anakin in Star Wars has some level of a redemption as Vader. Oh, he goes from Vader to Anakin again. Shin does not get any of that in the series. Not in particular. He does get a redemption though in Final Plus, and I'm going to talk about Final Plus in a little bit for the non-spoiler portion. But since we're here in spoiler land right now, Shin does get redemption in the Final Plus because we do get those additional the alternate ending, which gives us an epilogue. And the epilogue does focus on our four main characters, Kira, Athrun, Shin, and then we throw in and Lacus too. But we also get Mayrin and Luna right there too. While Shin was being a pain throughout the entire series, and it seems like by the end of the fight, he kind of realizes the errors of his way. Kind of realizes it. The series doesn't really indicate this, but in the Final Plus, it kind of indicates that he has a regret, right? And hearing that orb was not destroyed, he was glad about that. So I was like, a little bit there. When we get to the orb site, the grave site, and Kira and everybody, all of them meet Shin. Oh, Kira meets Shin for the first time, and Shin finds out who Kira is, and he's like apologetic about what had happened. That shows a little bit of redemption. It shows that Shin could change as a character. But if you had only watched the series and not got a chance to watch the Final Plus, you would have never get any inclination that Shin changed as a character. And even if it was like a small change, it's kind of like, and I'm going to be fair here, kind of like a small change, like the equivalent of Darth Vader turning the Anakin at the end of Episode 6, The Return of the Jedi, when he's laying there in Luke's arms and he's telling him that, like, your sister was right, you know? And as he passes away, or like by the time that Luke took off the helmet, I would say actually goes further back when Vader had tossed Palpatine into the well, or that gravity well, or whatever it was. He turned back into Anakin. So that just for those moments that he did change back. So we got some small moments like in Star Wars, right? And you could say the same thing with Shin here. We had some small moments with Shin where he did change a little bit. Unfortunately, we don't see him develop any further from that. And he still stayed as he was, as far as we can tell. I still just do not like Shin at all. His excuses for being a absolute arrogant brat is like, my family's dead, and that's why I'm like this. I get it. You know what? Tons of other people in your timeline have lost family, have lost loved ones, have lost friends. But that doesn't justify them 100% the way that you behaved. And in addition to that, everybody else has seen the change. He did not. So it was very frustrating to watch him as a character. Another thing I want to talk about spoiler-wise too was, and I talked about this earlier, comparing him to Camille. So like there's the Shin to Camille and Luna is Fall. And I just want to talk about this a little bit real quickly too, regarding the characters, because I didn't get to touch about it before because I was saving it for this portion here, is that they tried to, again, copy another aspect of Zeta, and they try to copy Luna as Fa for Camille's Shin. And the thing about that though is that with Fa and Camille, we had far more time with those two to develop, like definitely far more time than, you know, of course, Ford and Camille, but we see more time with them to develop as characters and as a couple too. They had their fights, they had their instances, they had everything. With Luna, with Shin and Luna, no development whatsoever. There's no inclination about like why Luna has any affection for Shin, other than like what is it that you like about Shin or anything like that. Fall has some familiarity with Camille, and then they see each other kind of like that not quite family aspect or whatnot, but like they have that closeness, and they explain that in the series too, and they get in a little bit more of a fight too. But with Luna and Shin, the only thing that we got an idea of why Luna might like him is like, oh, he's always been like that in Academy. He's always been confrontational with his trainers. He's always been confrontational with the drills. I'm like, but that doesn't do anything for Luna, and she comes off like falling for him. I think there's a little bit of a Stockholm syndrome almost, because later on when we find out that he kills Athrun and Mayrin, they think he does, and it's kind of hinted that Luna might know the truth about things, but she's just being tight-lipped for no reason. They never really died. I mean, like, we know why, because it's like she went on a mission and all that, just she can't talk about it. But at no point does she ever try to rationalize or anything like that. I think that's a good example of what I'm talking about, like realizing with characters. But at the same time, she's falling in love with Shin. I think the only argument I can ever make, if I want to play devil's advocate here, why she falls in love with Shin is that she knows the truth. And she knows that he's being used or whatnot, and she can't do anything about that, so she feels sorry for him. And she wants to comfort him, and then she gets closer in that man. That's the only thing I can think of, but that's me stretching it out and just taking context clues. Like, super subtle context clues, because they don't give any other hints beyond like, oh, I love you, Shin. That's it. So I think that kind of drove me insane and nuts with the whole relationship between him and Luna, and it didn't work. It didn't make sense. Again, Fall and Camille made more sense than Luna and Shin. Also, Shin doesn't deserve anybody. All right. For those of you who are holding off, I'm going to be ending the spoilers right now. All right, so that's the end of those spoilers. Let me digress. I'm gonna get me away from Shin's punchable face. Wait. One more, bam, right in the kisser. All right, so a couple more things I do want to talk about when it comes to Destiny. I do want to talk about like the same issues that Seed had when it came to utilizing too many flashbacks and clip episodes. Same thing here with Seed Destiny. In fact, I think Seed Destiny does it far worse. It utilizes too many flashbacks, especially flashbacks from Seed, to explain many and variety of events rather than us using our context clues capabilities to relate that back to the past or past events. Additionally, there are 4, count them, 4 clip episodes. All of them. Some of them have like some relevant information, but not by a whole lot. 4 clip episodes. Those 4 episodes could have gone to developing characters furthermore, developing more plots with our characters, or developing the story furthermore. It could have gone towards better telling the last few episodes of this series. And that's something else I want to talk about too. I think by the second portion of Orb, or like the third act itself, when we get towards the end of the series, it rushes. The pacing was consistent up until the very end. The last few episodes, the Grandmaster thing opens up for the series, and hardly anything is ever explained. Everything is pushed out the door as quickly as it can, because it's like it feels like the ending, like the last few episodes, not quite like the last few episodes of Gundam X, because at least Gundam X had a little bit more time to explain what was going on. But with Seed Destiny, it was like this much time left, and it's like out the door. Last 2 to 3 episodes, barely any explanation, barely makes much sense. And it's just action to drive the plot. That's it. And it drove me nuts. And I felt like if we had more time with our characters, or building up of the story, building up what this Grandmaster thing was, I think it would have been a much more enjoyable experience. Additionally, too, if we had an actual epilogue. I've already mentioned, too, that the ending copies Seed. Not scene by scene, but what occurs. And the same thing happened from Seed happens here in Seed Destiny. The series ends with no explanation of the events afterwards, or no explanation about what happens to our characters, other than we see that things end. And that's not a great way to end it. It was very messy. Yeah, it was fun to watch because of the action, but it was super messy in terms of our characters and the story itself. If more time was just spent fixing those up, I think it would have been a better ending and a more coherent portion with the whole entire series as an overall. There is some good news to this, though, is that there's Final Plus. So this is a 50-episode series. However, they did release a special edition episode that aired after the end of Seed Destiny, because Seed Destiny didn't end appropriately. It ended very abruptly, right? So just to give you a kind of quick idea of what Final Plus is, Final Plus is basically like the last 2 episodes combined together and retold in a different way. Not retold, but like some events were kind of like moved around or stretched out, and then we have an alternate ending. That's basically it. There is some new footage or scenes in this this I would call like a special episode. I'm not gonna call it a movie. I'm gonna call it a special episode, right? In the special episode, it does contain some newer scenes. Not a whole lot of them are fantastic or really add much. They kind of make sense in certain points, but not by a whole lot. But the biggest one here, though, is that I really do like the epilogue that they give. Finally, we have an epilogue that actually explains things and closes the book so far in Seed right now. Even though we do have a sequel that's coming out, but at the time of its release, at the time that it ended, which was 2006, if I'm not mistaken here, it closes the book with some of our characters. There's still a lot of questions to be asked about what had happened, what transpired, what was going on. But at least we got a semblance of, hey, we closed the main story with this one point here, and then for a good amount of our main characters or whatnot, we close it off with them here. That's pretty much it. Honestly, I would almost say you could watch the last, like watch all episodes except for the last 2, maybe portions of the 48th episode, and then skip the last episode and just watch Final Plus if you have that on hand. Of course, if you watch the HD remastered, you don't have to worry about this. I don't know how that ends off, to be honest with you, but I have a funny feeling it's going to be incorporating the Final Plus ending. Some last points I want to talk about, too, regarding the story itself. Now, I'm a huge fan of Metal Gear, and I think this is like pre-Metal Gear, like definitely before Guns of the Patriots, the 4th game. But I like some of the story elements. This is where I say, like, Destiny did introduce something new, but it doesn't really tackle it. And in the same nature that Seed brought this over, it didn't fully tackle. It did a much more bigger sin than Seed, at least, in my opinion, than Seed. Seed introduced the whole racist or speciesism between naturals and coordinators. Destiny brought in the whole idea of, like, well, it's not just, you know, at the what seems to be a base level of naturals versus coordinators, but at the root level, it's war profiteers who are poking at each of these sides to fight each other just so they can generate more profits. I like that they brought that up and they dived a little bit into it, because again, it reminds me of a Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots story, basically, with proxy wars and things like that, and war profiteering. But what I didn't like was that they didn't really develop on that. We get some ideas about like characters and organizations involved in this profiteering and stuff like that, and the ongoing story between our main characters and factions and stuff like that. But we don't dive more into that story beyond that. And I feel like it was a good point, because so far in the Gundam franchise, we've talked about core elements of, like, you know, like war's hell, innocent always lose. We bring in that, like, kind of like this racist or speciesism. We also bring in some like environmental issues and stuff like that. But we haven't brought in something about those that provocate war. I think the closest thing we got to provocations of war was like in Gundam Wing with Dorothy's character, or to an extent Trace Kushanada too. But we never really got to that extent of, like, we have provocateurs. In that sense, it was provocateurs for the sake of provoking a war because of the art of war, the beauty of war. Irony, right? But that's what Wing was trying to do. Destiny brings the concept of, like, what Metal Gear Solid did, which was bringing the idea about war profiteers, people who are profiting off of the suffering and misery of others because of what war produces from that, or what war produces, which is that sorrow and misery. Destiny doesn't dive any further than hey, we got war profiteers that are causing these issues, and that's the deeper root issue here. Not coordinators and naturals, but war profiteers. And I feel like that was a missed opportunity, a really big missed opportunity, bigger than what C did with the whole naturals versus coordinators. Bigger miss. It was a disappointment. I felt like C Destiny could have done a whole lot better. Wasted opportunity. Maybe they could do something in Eclipse when that comes out. I don't know, but wasted opportunity so far. Other than that, last few things I want to talk about is the action in Seed or Seed Destiny. Seed Destiny's action is really good. I enjoy a lot of the action in Seed Destiny. A lot of it's fun. This one does have a lot more stock footage than Seed did, but at least it was still really enjoyable. I don't care, like Force Impulse. We've seen the same animation or stock footage of it putting on the backpacks or whatnot. I think it was kind of fun going in and out and slicing, dicing, or blasting through suits. I had fun watching it, but I don't know how else to put it. It's like Seed Destiny is like a trashy action movie, right? I would almost say it's like Michael Bay Transformers, like Bayformers. You know, it's like that level of entertainment. There's a lot of fighting. The story doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and the characters either, or they're garbage characters or whatnot. But the only thing that's going to drive you is the action, and that's what Seed Destiny really has going for it. Other than that, a lot of the characters are a mess. The story is a mess. They had a lot of opportunity, and they wasted the opportunities on rehashing stories from other series or movies, regressing their characters, and then definitely flashbacks and clip episodes. What a waste. What a waste. Destiny. All the opportunity in the world. You had a sequel to build off of, and lazy writing is where it landed you. Right. All right. Well, that's what I want to talk about Seed the show necessarily. I do want to talk about my favorite suits. So for those of you who don't want spoilers about the suits or anything like that, I'd say go ahead and skip ahead and look out for the little monikers here. But I do want to talk about the show's suits, and it does have some spoilers in there regarding some other regarding the show's aspects alongside with other aspects from other shows, so other Gundam shows. For those of you who are not in the know or not too familiar, so this is one of my segments here is that I talk about my favorite suits of the series. Now, if you're not familiar with the Gundam franchise, every single series that's introduced into the franchise brings in a brand new slew of suits, either brand new suits, redesigns, new battleships, those sort of things. Since Seed Destiny is a sequel, we don't get a whole lot of new suits. A lot of them are from the previous series of Seed. However, Seed Destiny also does an egregious action, which was not only rehashing plot points and stories from Gundam, Zeta Gundam, and the and Seed, or even borrowing elements from Star Wars. When I mentioned Gundam, I didn't mean story for Gundam, but from the original Gundam at least, we have suit designs. A lot of the suit designs in this series is borrowed suit designs. Some of them are new, some of them are not, but I want to show you what I'm talking about. So the ones I'm going to talk about right now, they're going to be all honorable mentions because I don't really have a whole lot of suits I like. Let me double check here. Give me 1 second here, because I could swear I had my, oh, it's right here. Okay, so I do have them. But let me go ahead and just pull this over to you guys. I apologize for a little bit of the mess here. There we go. Alright, so as you can see here, I want to talk about this entire segment here primarily about the suits that Destiny copies. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of the redesigns of these suits I actually find kind of really cool. I really like some of the redesigns, but that doesn't mean that they weren't being lazy and they were just taking from another series and then redesigning them. That, in my opinion, is really, really lazy and shows no real effort other than like, okay, we're going to take a base level and we're going to change it. So what we have here is one of the first newer suits that we see in the series, which is the Zaku Warrior. Obviously, the Zaku Warrior is the Zaku 2. Now, some of you go like, well, you know, the Zaku 2 looks kind of goofy or whatnot just because the site that I'm using doesn't have like a more modernistic look. But let me just pick out something, and this is just more of my favorite type of a Zaku 2 because that's more of the modern look. And that's more of a closer look to what it would look like, right? And you can see a lot of like details and similarities between the two. I mean, it's a Zaku, so it's not too much of a terrible difference. I think that the helmet is a little bit more of a borrowed from Gundam 0080 with the German helmet, though. But yeah, the Zaku Warrior though is actually a pretty cool suit. It does have a beam weaponry or whatnot. It does have another form called the Zaku Phantom. Not terribly too different, but it does have like its ammunition, like for the beam rifles, in the shields. I like a lot of the functions and features. It's got like grenades. The way that the Heat Hawk, because the Heat Hawk's usually right behind the Zaku, right? Usually. The Heat Hawk comes out of the shield. Oh, it doesn't show it. Oh, I was hoping it was going to show that. It does not show it, unfortunately. But the shield would pivot downwards, and then the handle would pop out, and then the Zaku can pull it out of the shield. I thought that was really, really cool with the Zaku Warrior. But as you can see what I mean, like, even though with the original, they take the designs and they redesigned it, make it a little bit more menacing, a little bit cooler, what have you. I don't want to be not clear about this, but again, I like the redesigns. I just think it's so lazy though, especially for a show that's supposed to be new. And I know that they're trying to appease like older Gundam fans like myself and stuff like that, but as much as that's cool, and we do see actually other characters that are similar and stuff like that, or we get quotes too. I know we're in the spoiler section. Like for an example, we get like something like the Black Tri-Stars, or Heine says, "This is no goof," or "This is no Zaku kid," or like girl. Is it kid or I can't remember. It's like kid or girl, but he's like, "This is just no Zaku, no Zaku." And I was like, "That's cool." I like the little references to the original Gundam. But at the same time, like, it's being a little too egregious, a little too lazy. So the next one I want to show us here, let me go and just close off here. Now I got that. Is the Goof. And I'm going to show you the original Goof, and here is our Goof Ignite. This is Heine's custom colors. And I just want to show you because I call him Heine, but that's his name. It's Heine Wessenfluss. Cool character. Oh, kind of a cool character. But the Goof was kind of cool. It does have its beam machine guns, akin to the finger machine guns. Only difference, it's more like a mounted one. And that's where I kind of want to show the Goof Custom, because it's very much more akin to the Goof Custom than anything else. I think that's why maybe they want to call it Ignite. I don't know. It does have like, you know, the heat cable and stuff like that. Some other the sword is a little bit different too, so I just want to show you some things. Like here's the cannon it has, or the machine guns, the Tempest beam sword. So like right here is actually like, so the Goof has a heat rod. Is it heat rod? No, it's heat saber. It's heat saber. That's right. Heat saber right here, and it heats up, and that's how it functions. The Goof sword, though, extends upward and it's a physical device in addition to, which you can't really see right here, doesn't show it, but there's a beam that would come, it would turn on, and a beam would light, be on that end. So it could be a physical weapon alongside with a beam weapon. So that's something that's cool and unique to the Goof Ignite. Kind of a cool design. We see it quite a bit later on in the series, but you see what I'm saying? Like they're rehashing it. If you look at the two, though, they're very much the same thing. Some minor differences in the details, but that's about it. And if I want to compare it to the original, you can see what I'm saying. Moving along here with other copies, we got the second to last suit that they copy from the original, and that is going to be the Dom. Now, I have an image of a Dom here, but it looks, I mean, Rick Dom and Dom are the same. They just, one's for space and one's not. You can see what I'm saying, like they're, again, taking a familiar design, giving it some more details, some more functions and features behind it. In fact, I want to say that it looks more akin, at least to the Rick Dom 2 than anything else from 0083. Because if you look at it by like detail-wise, it kind of matches up far more than the Dom. But of course, the Dom is it's an image from the older series and not a more modernized look to the Dom. But yeah, that's pretty cool. It was nice that we get to see the jet stream attack in the series too, so I thought that's cool. Not just once, but multiple times. So that's kind of neat. Moving along here. Now, when you look at this suit, and some people go like, well, that's not a copy of any other suit. And it's called the Babby. I don't see what suit it could be like close to, Brisson. What are you trying to get at? Here is one of our first suits that's a copy from Zeta Gundam. But it doesn't look anything like the Hammurabi. Babby. Hammurabi. Brabby. Babby. Its transformation sequences are almost not the same, but based on the design that these two are, the Hammurabi was built as a simplistic transformable mobile suit to be mass-produced. So it has a very simplistic transformation. Note that the legs flip over onto the wings, and it kind of looks like a little dragon, right? Yeah! The Babby! It's got its legs that kind of flip over too, and it kind of looks like a weird dragon too, except it's holding its guns. Are we not copying again? Are we not rehashing a design? Don't get me wrong, the Babby does look kind of cool. Although I don't ever... I like gems on suits. I don't like when they have particle cannons on their chest, because it looks like buttholes. I'm sorry, but it looks like a giant anus I'm staring at on the chest. That's why I don't like the suit necessarily, but I do respect the suit for the most part. I do like it, though. Honorable mention, at least, because it's not too much like the Hammurabi, but it has a lot of familiar features and similar characteristics between the two. Oops, you know, I just realized. I did that. I apologize, folks. Yeah, I apologize. Let me give you that. But you see what I'm saying, though, is that it's the same kind of a suit. Granted, this one's got more weapons than you can count on the Hammurabi. Literally, Hammurabi only has like the two the beams on its back. And this thing's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8! You can't count it on one hand, obviously, so yeah. I just want to throw that out there. So that's our first Zeta copy. I think anyone who's watched the series will know the second Zeta copy, and as soon as I show it, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The only issue I have with this is that it doesn't have the little 100 symbol here. But if you know Zeta Gundam, you know it's a copy of the Hayaku Shiki. It's a gold mobile suit, like a gold mobile suit. Oh wait, it's a gold Gundam. I guess they really want to correct Hayaku Shiki from being a mobile suit to being a Gundam. So it's very much a lot of similar characteristics and the appearance of the Hayaku Shiki. I mean, look at the boots, look at the coloring schemes, and look at the similar designs. I think the only thing that's going to be a little bit different, obviously, is the chest capacity. The wing binders, there's 2 backpacks that it has, which not really like that, but you could kind of see it like that. Also, in the series, I don't know why in this picture it doesn't have it, but in this series, it does have the stamp of the Hayaku on here. Not on the right side, I remember seeing it on the left side when Kaguli first sees the suit. It had that. So another suit I want to jump into as well. Oh, wait, I jumped too much there. I don't think I have... Oh, wait, yeah, that's right. Sorry. Destiny Gundam. And at first glance and first thought, I was like, well, Destiny Gundam doesn't really look like it copies anything. Other than its armaments. And you take a look at the Zeta Gundam. and you're gonna start seeing some similarities. So it's funny when I bring up this one though, because Destiny Gundam is a hodgepodge of Gundams put together. Long story short, for the Destiny Gundam was originally supposed to be what was known as the let me see if I can pull it up here. Oh, I can't pull up here. It was originally supposed to be known as similar to what is the Perfect Strike. This one was only in the HD remastered. And I want you to kind of take a look at these two suits and tell me if you notice any kind of similarities. If you've seen the series. If you haven't seen the series, I don't expect you to know this. If you've seen the series, you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. So this was only in the HD remastered. I'm only aware of it because of Gundam Breaker Mobile. But Destiny is basically the Impulse Gundam on crack. It takes all the backpacks from the Impulse Gundam and slaps it into this suit. So it has the large, mega particle beam cannon. I don't remember what it's called exactly. Akin to like the Aegis? Angie rifle, similar to that one. For the Perfect, also for the, and I'll just pull it out here too, for the Blast Impulse, right here. We have the Silhouette Sword. Or swords right here, but it's the swords right here, just like the sword on the Perfect Strike. And then, of course, we have the Strike's backpack, kind of all meshing in together with this one right here. Now, where I stop right here is I point off to Zeta Gundam, because if you look at the wings and you look at Zeta Gundam, very similar color scheme, like some like inverted colors in a sense, but it's very similar color scheme. It gets really, really more noticeable when Zeta Gundam's in its Wave Rider form, because then you can really see a lot of those colors really show out with the Destiny Gundam. Last thing I want to say, that Destiny Gundam is also a hodgepodge of other Gundams, because its hands has like Shining Gundams or Burning or God Gundams, Shining or God Finger. They call this the Palm Fulcia right here, and it doesn't really do a good job, but it literally could just do a burning or shining finger onto a suit's head and blow it off. So this is right back to taking a lot of other aspects from other Gundams and putting it together to create a new Gundam. Now, I mean, I'm not saying I don't like the Destiny Gundam's design overall, but because it's piloted by Shin, and I really, really hate Shin, it's a really, really meh design. One thing I do like about the Destiny Gundam, though, is the stock footage animation they constantly use, which is it opens up its binders to create these like huge angelic purplish wings, and then it pulls out its gigantic sword and goes for a stabbing motion. I thought that was really, really cool. But yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like, where it borrows, again, a lot of elements from other Gundams or other suits, from other series too. Not staying to the original. Although, with Perfect Strike, it makes sense because it's within the same universe, but from other suits, from other series, throw my hands up in the air of whether I'm going to, throw a hissy fit or not. Last but not least, we have the Destroy Gundam. And with the Destroy Gundam, we get a twofer. A twofer. What we get out of the Destroy Gundam, first part of it, is we get the Psycho Gundam. We get the Psycho Gundam 1 and 2. Its capabilities with its fingers, because it's got the finger beam rifle, like beam fingers or whatnot, it can shoot. The overall structure and length of it too, it is a hulking Gundam. Gigantic. An example would be like if you look at the Freedom Gundam, it's about the size of the cockpit. That's how big it is. Now, like most other Gundams, most Gundams for the Psycho would be about that big to the Psycho. Same thing with the Psycho 2, although it's a little bit bigger. The biggie boy. The twofer I'm talking about, though, it's not exactly twofer between Psycho Gundam 1 and 2. No. That's one of the twofer. The second twofer is regarding its attack mode. Any Gundam fan out there would tell you what it looks like, but anybody who's... Are you familiar with that? If not, budding. we have the Big Zam. We go right back to the original. Yes, Big Zam does not have two gigantic cannons on it, but it does have one major cannon, the bipodal tri-foot legs, and all corners of the Destroy's attack mode is very similar to the beam sprays that the Big Zam has. Is it beam spray? I can't remember what it's called. Mega particle beam cannons. There's 28 of them. 28 of them. How much does this guy have? I'm actually kind of curious because this thing is literally a destroyer. Very devastating mobile suit or Gundam. Doesn't seem like it has that many actually. I can't really pinpoint it, but I'm looking at fixed armor. I apologize. Oh. Yeah, because it only has fixed. It doesn't have anything that's optional, but still. I just think it's kind of funny that they did this because they're mimicking a very destructive mobile armor, but also a very destructive Gundam that, again, replicates elements from Zeta Gundam, not only by suit design, but by story design as well. So yeah, that's all I have to say about, not the suits overall, but what I wanted to talk about regarding the suits that are copying, or that Destiny copies from other series. Now, I have this one up just because it was from my last review, but I do want to talk about the actual suits. I want to make some mentions. First and foremost, I do want to talk about the ugliest suit in the entire series, and that is the Ash. My god, this thing looks like it was straight from ZZ Gundam, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did take it from ZZ Gundam. Ugly, ugly suit. Oh my god, that thing, oh god, it's awful to look at. I do want to make an honorable mention, and I think it's kind of funny because I've seen this suit mentioned multiple times, and some people like swear that that's one of their favorite suits too. And I thought it was like, okay, watching it in, like, looking at it is different than watching it in action. Watching it in action, it's actually kind of a cool suit. It's a shame that it was pretty much cannon fodder for the most part. If you are a fan of Destiny's suits, you'll know exactly the one I'm talking about, and I'm talking about the Windam. The Windam is actually not bad designed. It looks lame like this, but in action and in motion, it's actually pretty cool. It's got two different variations to it, like a flight type mode and stuff like that. And the rabbit ears of the antennas are not as noticeable due to the lighting and coloring that they're in the background, basically. So it doesn't really look noticeable. But the suits themselves are pretty cool. So super honorable mention. It's not on my top tier, but like I want to acknowledge this suit because I don't really like a lot of like the alliances of the Federation to me, and I don't like Federation-based suits. But here's something I do like. Besides Gundams, I actually like this one. I can get behind that. My first suit that I really do like from this series is the Murasame. Yeah, I'm trying to say that right. And if you know me, I love my transforming mobile suits. The Murasame's transforming state and then its mobile suit state are pretty cool. Very basic design, upgraded versions of the A-Stray. I like them a lot. They're really neat looking suits. Following up from the Murasame is the Savior Gundam. This list is really hard for me to comprise because a lot of it had a lot of like suits I really liked. Now the Savior, I don't like that gigantic like camera fin on its head, but its overall body is pretty decent and cool looking, very detailed. I like it. The backpack is also neat, but what I also like is when it transforms. It has a pretty cool transformation sequence. It's quick, but I like it. It's a really neat looking Gundam. I enjoy it for the most part. Again, I cannot deny my transformable mobile suits or Gundams. That could be said same for my next one here too. Oh, look at that again. Another Transformer. It's something I already mentioned too. I actually really like the Destroy Gundam. In its attack mode, it is incredibly devastating. A scary suit to be at the wrong end of the barrel, basically. Other than that, it looks like it'd be fun if you went like on a destruction mode in a game or something. It looks like it'd be a fun thing to drive. When it transforms, it's kind of like a sitting duck almost. Its arms can do actually quite a bit more, so some level of formidability. That's about it. So continuing on here, my second to last favorite suit. Now, this was like a very hard toss-up for me because my favorite suits function between functionality, like actual practical suits that I would want to pilot if I ever could pilot it, versus like style and look and design, right? So I had to argue and fight against those two. These two particularly are polar opposites, right? One is absolutely by design, one is absolutely by functionality. So I had to decide, and I would told myself, like, if I had to pick something, I would want something by functionality, right? So for second place is purely by looks, is the Zeta Gundam. I like it a lot because its transformed state is actually pretty cool and neat. It reminds me of Zoids to some extent, but it's also suit form is actually pretty cool and neat as well. I just like the mobility behind this suit and the overall design. Really like it a lot. It's a neat, cool suit. As for my number one, just like Seed, Destiny also has that, you know, one Gundam. If you think about Seed Destiny, you're gonna think about this one Gundam. Not a big surprise, but it's the Strike Freedom. I like it for its functionality. Overall looks, no. I do not like the looks of the Strike Freedom at all for the most part. I really don't care for these gold aspects of the suit. But primarily, and I already mentioned it before with the Babby, I don't like mega particle beam cannons or like these weird beam cannons implanted in the chest of the suit, unless they could cover it up and make it look good. Because it looks like I am staring at a giant butthole on this Gundam. That's what I'm looking at right now. So I would not like to look at a giant butthole. I like to look at a nice suit. And that's why I had the Freedom still up. Because honestly, the Freedom was in this series, but it's not something that was introduced, right? It was from Seed itself. And if you ask me, aesthetically, I really like the Freedom Gundam more than I like the Strike Freedom. Although when the Strike Freedom opens up its wings and whatnot, it looks very cool and very much more angelic than the Freedom Gundam. But I just like the aesthetics of the Freedom Gundam versus Strike Freedom. That's purely me. I get it though. Some people would say like, "Oh, I can ignore that, and I would rather just have the suit's full capabilities." Cool. I like style with my function. That's why I would go with Freedom Gundam. But, of course, having to pick a newer suit for the series, I would pick Strike Freedom. Any given day. Even as practicality too, I would pick that any given day. But that's what I had to say about the suits of this series. And let me go ahead and give our non-wanting spoilers for our viewers here. Okay. So hopefully our people who don't want spoilers jump back to this portion of the video here. Okay. So here's my next segment here, which is I'm new to the Gundam franchise. Should I watch Gundam Seed Destiny first? No. Do not watch Gundam Seed Destiny first. First and foremost, this is a sequel. It spoils a lot of moments and elements and borrows or utilizes a lot of elements from the original Seed. So don't start with that first on that portion. The second thing is that this series doesn't do a great job of portraying or setting up the right expectations when going to any other Gundam series. It focuses a lot more on the action, and while it does focus a lot on our characters too, and not so much on the story, it does a really, really bad job, and it doesn't set the right expectations of like, hey, I'm going to watch another Gundam series, and you're going to get the same level of melodrama or the lack of story or focusing on action a lot. So I think Seed Destiny really sets bad expectations for the Gundam franchise overall. So no, don't start with Destiny first. You're going to start off first, watch the Seed first, then you can jump into Destiny or jump around from that point. And then as for an overall, Gundam Seed Destiny is a disappointment for the most part. While it bridges off from a very successful series that is Gundam Seed, it takes too much of that success And due to the lazy writing of Seed Destiny, it heavily relies on rehashing a lot of story and plot elements alongside regressing their characters and utilizing mecha designs from other series itself. It no longer becomes a original series and more or less a rehashed series. The series is so much more content with utilizing the action to really drive a lot of what's going on and halfly tell what's going on with our characters. It's not really a thorough, enjoyable experience watching it based with our characters. It's sad to see a lot of our characters that we are familiar with from the first series get regressed so much and then rehash a lot of what they've already done before. Again, Seed Destiny by no means is a great success to Seed, although it was very enjoyable with the action sequences. I can't lie. It was still fun to watch Seed, but overall a letdown. Mobile Suit Gundam Seed gets an alright 2 out of 5. Now, I do have to say that at least this is a little bit more, again, another unbiased scoring here, because when I had originally watched Seed Destiny, and if you have heard my story before, I saw this in bits and pieces. I couldn't put this together. It was a convoluted mess to me, and it didn't make sense. And that made sense because the story wasn't a huge focus, and the focus on our characters didn't make much sense, and it was all over the place. And the only thing that held the series together was the action. When I had originally watched, I gave it a 1 out of 5. I did not want to watch the series. If it was not Seed, I would bash Destiny the most. Destiny was the one I highly kept on bashing on. I constantly referred to it like stock footage, the show. Hated Destiny constantly. I keep looking over here. Let me put that back up for you guys. I just did not like it at first. Coming back to it a decade later, and then just rewatching the show and reanalyzing it for what it was, I see a lot of the faults in it. It's still a fun show, actually. That's why I gave it a 2. I mean, someone asked me to watch, I wouldn't be terribly excited. I wouldn't really want to watch it off the bat, but I'm like, if someone really wants to watch, I'm like, sure, I can watch it with you, because a lot of the action really does carry this series, but man, the lackluster story and the regressing character stuff really is aggravating. It doesn't sound like it when I explain it, but if you watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about, especially if you had watched Seed beforehand too. It's very aggravating to see characters that have already gone through the same arc revisit that again. It's as if they never learned their lesson or anything like that. So that's all I have to say about Gundam Seed Destiny and Seed itself too. I'm sad though, as of this time of this review. So like I said, I got the review Seed Destiny, and the red and blue frame, OVA shorts, and of course the Gundam Seed special editions. I did not in fact be able to review the Seed Destiny movies because I only had 2 of the 4. And I did not do anything regarding the HD remasters because I do not have access to them, nor do I plan to get them anytime soon. The biggest regret, though, is that I was trying to watch Stargazer to add on towards these reviews. Unfortunately, I could not get my hands on it. I tried to find what I could find on YouTube or other sources, and I just could not get my hands on it. So that's okay. Maybe in the future I'll come back in a review with Stargazer when I do pick up the Seed Destiny Collector's Box set. When I pick it up, that's gonna take time. Other than that, I do want to thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, if you're watching this on Twitch, follow me on my Twitch channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to my channel, leave a comment down below. I want to hear from you guys. What did you think about Gundam Seed Destiny? Do you agree with me? Do you think my opinion sucks? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Or what else do you think about Seed Destiny over? I want to hear from you guys. So leave a comment down below. As always, I do want to thank you for watching, and until the next nerdy review, I'll see you next time. Take care.